Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Sarah. Today is our first day of our 5-day challenge. And I am on 2 minutes early because I want to start by doing a little bit of testing for those of you who start to join. So I am using a new streaming service. It's called StreamYard. And in order to give me permission to see your name when you comment, there's a link below that says I'm streaming with StreamYard. Click here to give permission. If you don't see that, that's okay. You can still comment, but maybe just put your name at the end of the comment because it won't show up automatically for me. So welcome. Thank you so much for watching. I ask you to please comment when you log in and just confirm that my sound is okay and my visual is okay and the streaming is okay. So I see a couple of people are watching live already. If you can please just comment as you log in so that I know that this new streaming platform is working. Just on the comments say hello. I am a very direct, down to the point, just get meat and potatoes kind of teacher, right? I don't do a lot of fluff. So in this challenge, that is my first promise to you. We're going to jump right in. We're going to use our time wisely. I want this to be very interactive. So as you come in and as I'm talking about anything that kind of sparks an idea or a little aha moment, I want you to ask questions as you go. The streaming service allows me to see the comments, but doesn't always allow me to see your name. So whenever you comment, if you can put your name on the bottom. Hi, Lori from Ohio. Nice to meet you. It will be helpful for me to answer the question using your name. Otherwise, I'm just going to... Hi, Cecilia. Okay, good. It's working. All right. So with all of that up and running, let's go ahead and get started. First, logistics. Inside of our private Facebook group, there is a units tab. On that units tab, you will find everything that you need for this challenge, including a workbook, how to create a sustainable mindfulness practice. And I'm sorry, this is the guide, and this is the workbook. And this is the workbook that we're going to be following every day. So every day, whatever we cover, this is your companion guide so you can make notes. I tend to talk a lot and sometimes ramble a little. So this will make sure that you get the main points as we go through the challenge. There's also 2 posts in that units tab. The first one is set your intention post. And I have been so glad to see all of your wonderful, wonderful intentions. 2 things that I want to clarify. Some of you, for whatever reason, thought that maybe this would be like a live yoga challenge. It's not. It's actually even better than that because yoga classes you can catch on YouTube. I put the YouTube channel link up there for you guys if you're looking for guided classes by me. I have a YouTube channel where you can catch those. But it's not ideal for me as a teacher to do live yoga if I can't see you, so just to clarify on that, though it did give me a good idea of maybe hosting a group yoga class maybe sometime in February where we could all get together and do it live. I like to do my yoga live. I think there's a beautiful space that the teacher holds that's just can't be replaced by videos all the time. Videos are useful and very practical. And, I do record all of my classes and my students have access to recorded classes. But I think that showing up live and being connected to a teacher energetically like you're doing right now, it's more precious than anything. Even if I cannot see you, I know that there's an energy transmission that's being sent that you are able to receive when we're live. So in regards to the intention, please go ahead and put your intention on that post. The other one is an accountability partner. It is proven that when you have an accountability partner, someone that you just touch base with, you're more successful in your goals. So in that accountability thread is what we'll call it. What you're going to do is you're just going to put in your name. Hi, I am, Sarah. I live in Utah. I have 2 grown kids. I've been doing yoga for a while, whatever it is. And then you see if there's other people that kind of like, oh, I could be friends with that one, or that would be a good match. And then you reply and you say, hey, do you want to be my buddy? And once you both agree to be each other's buddy, then you write another comment and you say, we're set. And this way, anybody else who's going through the thread is looking for a partner and knows which partners are available and which partners are not available. I ask that you look for an available partner before you put in a request, because what has happened in the past is there was request, and there was no replies. And so I was kind of playing matchmaker, and Katie was helping me to play matchmaker, trying to say, okay, you two should get together. So start the thread. It's on the units tab, is the accountability body thread. And last but not least, the last announcement before we start, at the end of this week. So the challenge runs Monday through Friday this time. If for whatever reason you don't catch it live, the replays will be in the units tab as well. On Saturday, I'm hosting a special 3-hour live workshop. It will not be recorded. It will not go live on the internet. It's just you're going to have a private Zoom link for that. It's only $47, and it's going to be about how to manifest your heart's desire and how to create a vision board that actually works. Because there's a lot of manifestation classes out there, but trust me, you've never seen anything like this. I'm very practical in everything that we do. So this time it's going to work. So if you're interested in that, feel free to join. And with all of that said, let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to start with is kind of like a big overview of what the goal of this challenge is and how it's all going to work. So on day 1, which is today, I'm going to talk about how to create sacred space. So, my sacred space is resting right now, but over there, that's where my yoga mat goes. And, the whole room is really set up with plants and candles and water to just make sure that this is a sacred environment that I teach from. You want to do the same thing in your home. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how the space needs to be set up and what to look for and all of that. Then tomorrow, we're going to have our first assignment. So we're going to learn how the mind works, the functions of the mind, and you're going to have your first assignment, which you're going to do in that sacred space that you hopefully set up today. Day 3 is going to be emotions. How do we deal with our emotions? What are they there for? And how do we learn from them instead of just getting all caught up in them? Day 4 is going to be how to choose the right practice for you. There is so many paths up the mountain, and we're going to talk about what to look for and what might work best for you. I'll give you like some general ideas. So if you're this type of person, this would be a good practice. If you're that type of person, this would be a good practice. And on day 5, we're going to talk about how to measure progress in the spiritual path. How do you know that this mindfulness practice is actually working? And we're actually also going to talk about the obstacles that are inevitably going to come up, why sometimes it is so difficult to sustain your mindfulness practice, and what to do to overcome those obstacles, and the 3 things that you need to sustain a long-term practice. Because a lot of people want to create a mindfulness practice. They know they should be meditating. They know they should do some yoga. They know what they should be doing, and yet they can't stick with it. And why is that? And so we're going to talk about the psychology behind why we do the things we do or why we don't do the things that we do. I want to keep these nice and short and concise and simple so that you can watch the replay many times if you like. So I'll go kind of a little bit fast because I know the replays will be available to you, but also so that we stay focused on the most important things. So For those of you who don't know me, I am Sarah. I am a traditional Usui Reiki master teacher, a holistic life coach, and a yoga teacher. I have been practicing for 20 years. I have been teaching for 10. I have studied over 8 different lineages of yoga and countless meditation and breathing techniques. Why? Because I was a bit of a mess and I was suffering a lot. When I was in my 20s, I was a troubled child, man. I created so much drama and so much trauma. Life did not deal me good cards. Let's start there. But like, if that wasn't enough, I took it upon myself to make a hell of a lot of mistakes that then made it more and more and more difficult. And so by the time I was in my 20s, I was already suffering like a lot from just depression and anxiety and just unhappiness and inner conflict and just undisciplined and everything that happens when you are not energetically where you need to be. And so in a way, that was a blessing, right? Because it forced me to start looking at a very young age. So I was probably 21 when I walked into my first yoga class. It was at the local church, and I just never heard of yoga before. I hardly spoke English at the time. I'm from El Salvador, and so I came here when I was 16. That's part of the cards that were dealt to me that weren't easy to cope with. And so that's how I got started. And I kind of dabbled in it, just like we do sometimes, for a few years. Do it, then take a break and quit, and then go back. And in 2004, so about 16 years ago, I went to drop off my husband's clothes at the cleaners, and there was a pamphlet that said hot yoga. Or he brought it home is actually what happened. He brought the pamphlet home from the cleaners, and he actually gave it to me and said, okay, why don't you try this? You like yoga? And I'm like, hot yoga? What the hell is that? And I tried it and I was hooked. I don't do it anymore, but at the time I did hot yoga for about 5 years, 5-6 times a week, 90 minutes each time, day in and day out. Just go and practice and sweat, and go and practice and sweat. And so if you see a lot of firing me and a lot of disciplining me, I do credit it to those years in my 20s when I was a hot yoga junkie. And while that was going on, in 2008, I was working at the water company doing customer service, and a girl who sat next to me, and we had this tiny little cubicles. You know, you're in customer service and there's limited space, I guess. And so we sat right next to each other. Like, you could just hear everything everyone was saying. And so in between clients, we'll take off our headset and chat. And she told me about this Reiki class. And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. Energy healing. I've never heard of that. So why not try? And that was really the beginning of my healing journey and my training. And so in the fall of 2008, I walked into that Reiki class and met my teacher. And she's been my teacher for over 12 years to this day. And so I have basically been through over 12 years of monastery style training to peel away as many layers of the self as I could possibly peel away, and really just transformed my entire life. I have 2 grown children. I'm not married anymore. And I eventually quit my corporate job and created a career doing this. And about 5 years ago, I opened up my own studio. And then in 2019, I was guided by my teacher and God to just pack up and move to Utah. And so, as scary as I was, because I've never even been to Utah, I packed up my stuff and I moved to Utah. And little did I know, in January of 2020, when I got here, I was already teaching online. And at the time, I was like one of the very few yoga teachers teaching online. And people are like, what do you mean? Can you do yoga online? Like, what does that work? How does that work? And then the situation that we currently have happened, and then everyone went online, and I was blessed to already be here because honestly, my studio was too big. I wouldn't have made it. Like, it was, if I couldn't do in-person work, I wouldn't have made it. So that's, in a nutshell, in 5 minutes, the story of how I got here and how I'm blessed now to lead this amazing community of of yogis. So fast forward a little bit, it's not like summer 2020. I'm still struggling to kind of get clients a little bit. And I sign up because I am a teacher, so I know the benefit of a teacher. I appreciate someone who can teach me something I don't know. And so I signed up for this class of how to learn to do Facebook and how to learn to like do online marketing and stuff. And that's how I ended up creating this group. And at the beginning, I didn't really know where it was going to go. And I didn't know what I was doing. But I put it out there. I put my intention out to the universe. I want to reach as many people as possible, help as many people as possible, send them to me. And so within 6 months or so, our community has grown to over 1,000 students. And so I work in very small groups. I work one-on-one mostly, and then the groups that I do have are usually no more than like 9 students. That's usually what I cut my classes at. So I couldn't possibly service, 1,000 people at the standards that I want to work at. So what this challenge does is it allows me to give some of the most valuable information that I have been blessed to learn over the last 20 years and share it with you guys for free. But just because it's free doesn't mean it's not valuable. And I really want you to just take a moment to take that in, because we live in a society where if things are free, sometimes we don't appreciate them as much as we should. And as we go through these 5 days, I do not want you to underestimate the value of what you are about to receive. So that's kind of my story. That's kind of how the challenge is going to work. And with all of that said, let's jump right into today's topic, which is creating sacred space. So the first thing is I want to do a little poll here. Do any of you have a little corner or a little, nook somewhere, or if you're lucky, a whole room that's just for you? That's rare, but some people do have it. Can you say, yes, I have a sacred space, or no, I just kind of, I'm looking to create one? So type that in the comments real quick. There's a delay on the stream, so I'll give you a few moments for you guys to post and answer. I want to know, yes, I do have a space, or no, I need to create one. And again, put in your name at the end of the comment, or give permission to StreamYard for me to see your name, because it doesn't come up automatically. So Tammy says yes. Someone says yes, I have created space. Anissa says yes. Cecilia says looking to create one. Kim's looking to create one. Okay, that helps me a lot, because it helps me to know where I'm starting from. Okay, so the first thing that you want to know is space has memory. Space, yes, says Roseanne. Okay, good. Space remembers. This is why it's important, for example, to not work in your bed, or to not, play video games when you're trying to go to sleep. Or to not eat, in your couch, or eat in your bed. I'm not saying those things are completely wrong. I'm just saying, if you train a space to hold a certain energy and a certain frequency, then when you step into this space, you have the battles there. All you have to do is go get to your space. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter how busy you are. It is a lot easier to get into the right frequency to do the mindfulness practice that you need to do for the day if there's a dedicated spot for you to do this. Now, there's lots of issues. That's easier said than done for some of us, right? So when I started my practice, I remember I had to do my Reiki, and I didn't want to do it in my bedroom with my partner, so I had to go find another place, and there wasn't really another place that I could just call mine. So I ended up going down to the basement kitchen and making like I put a massage table there and a space heater because it was cold, and I kind of just made it my own space. And it wasn't the prettiest, it wasn't ideal, it wasn't, there was like one of those little basement windows with a little bit of light and then the fluorescent lights on top. So I had to kind of put some lamps or whatever so that I wouldn't be sitting doing my Reiki with the light shining on my face. Because I didn't have a room. I lived in a house full of people and there wasn't a room for me, and I could try and put it in a corner, but that's where the dog bed went, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be beautiful, but it has to be yours, and it has to be specially dedicated to your spiritual practice. And really all you need, if you do yoga, you need the space of a yoga mat. That's it. If you don't do yoga, you literally just need the space where a chair would go or a cushion would go for you to sit in meditation. That's it. And it can be inside of another room. So it can be in a corner in your bedroom, or it could be in a corner in your living room. That's perfectly fine, but that's your corner. And once you go into that corner, your system automatically registers it's Zen time, and everything else just has to wait. If on the contrary, one day you'll meditate in your bedroom, then one day you meditate in the living room, one day you make a little space down in the basement, one day you go upstairs to the study or whatever, then each day you have that decision to make. Where do I want to go today? And the minute that you give the mind that choice, now the mind begins to think. And when the mind begins to think, it gets confused, it gets overwhelmed. And a confused mind doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do. It just spins. So even though it's such a simple thing, it is paramount. It is the beginning. It is the foundation of your spiritual practice and creating a daily mindfulness practice. And why is it important that it's daily? Because the goal of a mindfulness practice is to create awareness. There's many techniques, and they all are designed to do the same thing, whether it's yoga, tai chi, qigong, meditation, journaling, prayer, whatever it is, the goal is to create awareness. And in order to do that, you have to make it a habit. And a habit is best done on a regular basis and ideally at the same time every day. So let's talk about that for a second too. If you're a morning person, you should have a morning practice. I'm a morning person, 5 a.m. up and about ready to start my day. Not everybody works that way. There's a lot of people who are evening people. And, they hardly get up and just manage their way to a cup of coffee and then finally get to work. And by like 10, 11 a.m., now they're awake and ready for their day. And then they come home and it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and they're still going. They have a full evening ahead. By 9 o'clock, I'm done. I have no energy left. I am tired. I am ready for bed. So I have evening practice, and the evening practices for me personally are always a little bit difficult because it's easier for my mind that's already tired to just do something that's easy, like watch TV or watch YouTube. It takes me a lot more discipline to do my practices at night than it does to do them in the morning. So you want a dedicated space. And if possible, if your schedule allows, you want a dedicated time. Now, if you're, for example, a nurse or a teacher, teachers usually have steady schedules so they can find a way to put it on a regular basis. But other professions don't. And maybe you have to be at work at 7 a.m. 3 times a week. And, which one is it? Because you can't do it at the same time every morning. Then I would say to you, if you're a morning person and you have to be at work at 7 a.m., then do it at 6 a.m. every morning, except for those days where you work. And the days where you work, then you can go ahead and do it at night. But it's the exception to the rule. Your goal is always to do it in the morning because you're a morning person. If you're an evening person, the best time to do it is ideally when the sun is going down. You don't want to do this past 9 p.m. That's too late. So if you're doing your evening practice, you want to start at around 7, maybe 8 p.m., the latest that you want to start your evening practice. You can do a little meditation before you go to bed. If it's 9 o'clock already, but if you're going to bed at 11 and you're going to say that this is the time for your evening practice right before bed at 10:30, 11 a.m., the energy is not supportive of your practice. So just like we have, what are they called? Circadian rhythms. There's an energy to the day. And as much as possible, you want to flow in harmony with that energy. Now, we live in a society where our schedules are what they are, right? So that's not always possible, but that should always be your goal. Okay, so the importance of a space, because it has a memory and it stops your mind from having too many decisions to make before you sit down to practice. The importance of a time that is consistent, because the goal is to create awareness and to create a habit. And that is best done when you do it each day at the same time. If it is not possible to do, if you're a morning person, you should do it in the morning. If you're an evening person, you should do it in the evening, but not after 9 p.m. If you have a fluctuating schedule, I suggest that you make the days that you're not working at a certain time and the days that you are working at another time. But you set it, you put it in a calendar, okay? And you track it. Why? Because the mind likes to check things off the list. And so if you know how the mind works, you can use it to your advantage. We're creatures of habit, so the goal is to create a habit. You are creatures that get our sense of identity by, oh, I did this today, and then I feel good about myself, and that feeds your ego. Good. Use it until you don't need it. And so what you do is you, on a little wall calendar, those that have the little squares, you go, okay, today I practice. You could read a little happy face, a little check mark. I use like little stickers, the ones that teachers use at school with like happy faces and stars. I still, to this day, I have my chart on the wall, and every day I check all the many practices that I need to do. Why? Because my mind likes to see, look at me. My whole week, I only missed 2 practices for whatever reason. I have 2 or 3 in the morning, 2 or 3 at night, right? So every now and then I can't do them all. I'm going to miss some of them. But for you, it's easy because you only have one practice once a day. So then what you have to do is each day you check it off. And just for the record, the reason that I have so many practices is because I spend my whole day giving and helping people and giving energy and inspiring and downloading just so much. And so in order for me to stay balanced, my standards have to be a little bit higher. I can't give what I don't have. And I'm a teacher. And if I teach something that I don't practice, then I'm a hypocrite. So just so that you don't get overwhelmed, that, you have to have mornings and evenings and how many of them. No, for you to get started, the goal is once a day at the same time, if possible, and on the same space. And we start small. We start with 7 minutes for 7 days. And you're going to stay at 7 minutes for 7 days, even if you want to do more, unless you already have a practice where you already do more. You don't do more than 7 minutes per 7 days. Why? Because the mind doesn't like to be tricked. If you say to the mind, okay, we're going to sit for 7 minutes for 7 days, and then you sit and 7 minutes go by and you're like, I don't want to get up, I'm going to stay here. Well, then the next day when you go sit, the mind's not going to trust you. You said it was going to be 7 minutes and you were there for 20. So the mind likes to crave. We're craving creatures. And so it's almost like you want what you can't have. And so be patient and start small. Once you've done 7 minutes for 7 days in a row, then you can go to 14 minutes for 14 days. And only once you've done those 14 minutes for 14 days, then you go to 21 minutes for 21 days. But you don't jump ahead, Because if you jump ahead, the mind gets overwhelmed or it feels strict. There's no trust anymore. It's flaky and it doesn't give you the motivation. So if you say, I'm going to do it 7 days for 7 minutes, and on day 5, you miss a day, now you got to start again, 7 minutes for 7 days. And then on day 4, you miss it again. And now you're okay. You don't move on to 14 until you've done 7 minutes for 7 days in a row. And so you might be there for a whole month if you can get the 7 days in a row. And so the mind is going to have the motivation of, I can't go to the next step unless I freaking do it today because it's day 5. And if I don't do it today, I don't get to go to 14 minutes. It's really funny, but we are rebellious creatures. We don't like to be told what to do. A lot of us don't like structure. And so you have to do it with lightness. You have to do it with love. You have to start small and be patient and celebrate the little wins. And it's a lot easier to get the mind to be happy about little 7-minute wins than if you start trying to do 30 minutes a day and now on day 3 you didn't do it and then you feel bad about yourself and then why even bother, and now you quit before you've even begun to build the habit because you were shooting too high and you were trying to do too much, and then the mind couldn't shift that fast. And so then you do nothing. But if you build it small, it will become what you do. You'll begin to crave it. Okay, so I'll pause for a second so I can have a sip of water. And in the meantime, talk to me and let me know if this is resonating with you. And I'll read some of the comments too. Oh, good question. So it's easier for you to do it in the morning by your bedside, but if it's going to be longer than 10, 20 minutes, like on Saturdays. Okay, yeah. So for example, if you need to take a class, right, and you can't do it in your bedroom, then yes, you can go downstairs and have your privacy, because a lot of the times that's just more practical. So yes, that's okay. In which case, you basically need 2 sacred spaces, Roseanne. So the guidance that I'm going to give right now about exactly how to set it up, you want to do that on both spaces. The one in your bedroom, it still needs to be just for you, and it still needs to be specifically dedicated for that. And the one downstairs, it still needs to be a specific space in a specific direction that's specifically designed for that. And basically you have 2 sacred spaces, and then your system will get used to it. Doesn't matter which space it's in, you're where you need to be. Another question that came up last time that I went through this was, what if you don't have a room and you have to constantly take it up and take it down because, like, you know, let's say it's in the hallway, right? While everybody's asleep, and that's the only place that you have, and you can't find another space because everything in the corner in the house is busy, and you can't just leave it there because it's a freaking hallway, and during the day it's used for walking through. In that case, what I want you to do is I want you to put it all in like a little picnic basket or a special, tote bag or something. And it's like a carry sacred space. I used to do that when I used to teach, and I was like a traveling teacher, and I taught at many different studios, and I would drive like 2 hours teaching here, teaching there, going to people's houses to do private yoga long time ago. And I would carry my little sacred space with me, and then as soon as I sat down and put everything in its place, then that was my cue for my system, like, okay, it might not be a designated space, but it's a designated set of items that you bring with you that make it your sacred space. And then you don't just leave them and put them off to the side, and then in the next morning you change the place where they're stored. No, the sacred traveling altar travels with you, and as soon as you're done with it, you pack it back together and you put it in its own little special corner. And so you're always going to go to that corner to get it out so that you can set it up for whatever space you need to temporarily use. Okay, let's see. I think those are the comments that I could see. Let's go into exactly how to set up this space, okay? First of all, do not overcomplicate it. So your task for today is to set up your sacred space, and it shouldn't take you too long. You literally need to pick a corner, clean it up of a little bit of clutter. You don't need to start sorting through the clutter. You just need to move the clutter out of the way to the garage, and you'll clear the clutter some other time. Right now, what you need is you just need to create space. So on your workbook, the most important thing is that it is a space that's just for you, at the same time, at the same place if possible. And the most important thing is to do it, to actually get it done. Okay, I don't want you to make this too complicated. I don't want you to overthink it. Now, it could be that you set up a space, and as you begin to practice, you discover that it's not ideal for whatever reason. Maybe it's too cold, too hot, the light doesn't come in through, the cat keeps bothering you, and you need to go somewhere else. Fine. But you're not going to know that until you start using the space. And so the first task at hand is to create the space. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to give you a list of items that I want you to kind of search for and begin to gather to create the sacred space. But you might not have them all handy, and you can use things that are symbolic in order to represent them. And then as you evolve, your space will evolve. So, yesterday I got a new plant and I came and put it in here, and it's really pretty. And then I had to move everything around because, the plant needed a special place. Oh, that one over there. I got that little, isn't that cute? It looks like next to that little pine tree thing. I hope I don't kill it. But I used to have another plant there. And I just thought that it would look cute because then it would look like the gong is like big size because it's a little tree. Anyway, now I'm off track. The point is, your space will always be evolving. You will find things will come to you that you will say, oh, this belongs in my sacred space. And so whatever you begin to gather today doesn't have to be the final answer, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a good start. So things that you want to put into your sacred space. Ideally, you want something that represents fire. So a little candle. If you live in an apartment, or if you for whatever reason don't like candles and are afraid of fire or whatever, then you can find something like a crystal that has a fire element to it. Or, even one of the little flickering candles that's plastic and that blinks and it's not real fire. It just looks like fire and it's an electric little battery operated candle. You can do that. You want something that represents air. So feathers or incense sometimes is good representations of air. You want something that represents water, and, a little bowl of water. So if the space is steady, you can literally just have a little cup of water, a little bowl of water, or something pretty. Or you can have a little water fountain. Sometimes if you listen carefully when I teach, there's a little water fountain running over there. The element of water is cleansing. It is fluidity. It's about flowing with the flow of life and not being too rigid in everything that you do. So you want to include that, and you want to include something that represents earth. So whether that is rocks that you pick up, like when I go hiking, I like to pick up rocks. I don't know, there's something pretty about them. There's something grounding about them. And it's always fascinating to me, especially the little smooth ones that must have been worn by water or erosion or however they got formed. And it's been like that for millennia, right? To me, that is just so magical and so wondrous. And so you want either rocks or crystals. If you're into crystals, amethyst is a healing crystal. Rose quartz is a loving crystal. Turquoise is a grounding crystal. The reason that I wear this all the time when I teach, because I spend literally my entire day talking, and it just helps my throat chakra to stay a little bit grounded as I teach. But you don't have to go fancy with the crystals. You could do a little plant or flowers that would represent earth. And you could also do anything that represents spirit to you. So whether you are Christian, you can have a picture of Jesus there. Whether you are, I don't know, whatever your religion is. I'm Catholic, so that's the only one. I'm not Catholic. I went to Catholic school. and so at some point, and that will evolve too. When I first created my altar, I was so confused and I didn't know, and so I had a picture of Jesus and one of the Virgin Mary, and then one of Krishna, and one of the Buddha, and one of Shiva, and Ganesha was over there, and I had them all. Now I have none. I have evolved past all symbology of whatever, but wherever you are in your journey, you need something that represents spirit for you, that you can surrender to wholeheartedly without any reserves. Something that inspires you and reminds you that there is a power greater than yourself that guides your life. Okay. So you want to set the space up that way. You want to cleanse the space if possible. And cleansing means that you are doing a little bit of a prayer of a blessing to your space, that this is going to be your now renewed commitment to yourself and to your spirit. So it could be symbolic, and it could just be a prayer and maybe burn a little incense there. Or I use, I don't know, some of you might know, it's called Smudge, and it's a mix of, mostly it's done with sage, white sage, and you kind of just light it up and it burns and it sends out this little smoke, and you use the smoke to cleanse the space. So if you know what that is, you could try it. If you don't know what that is and you're curious, you can go to Whole Foods, and in the Whole Foods they have smudging materials. And if you ask them what it is, and then it'll come with little instructions in there as to what to do. Another cleansing thing that you could use is Palo Santo. I don't use Palo Santo. That's not what my teacher used to use. But I've received it as gifts from my students. So I know that it's very common and it smells really good. And they're really just these little sticks of wood, and you light up one end, and once again, you put it out the flame and you have smoke. And with the smoke, you cleanse the space. If that's not your thing, you could use essential oil. So a little diffuser with your favorite essential oil, or you could spray the space with your favorite mix of essential oils. I usually put them in a little spray bottle or like a little pump bottle of the essential oils, and you can put them in candle burners. Last time we were on, Katie said, okay, if none of those things are your thing and you don't have like any of what I just mentioned in order to cleanse space, what you could do is you can boil orange peels or tangerine peels or lemon peels, and with the smelling of the citrusy smell and the steam, you kind of just go to your space. And it's not so much exactly about what you do, it's the intention with which you do it. So even if you already have a space today, I want you to take the time to just cleanse it, dust it, rearrange it a little bit, put in new things that kind of clicked with you about things that you now think that you should have in there, and kind of just renew your intention to the sacred space that you're creating. I'm going to pause for a second, review my notes, see if there's anything else I'm missing, check on the comments. And in the meantime, I want you to tell me any aha moments or any good ideas that you liked about what I just said that you're planning to put into your space today. Ooh, inspirational quotes. You want to put inspirational quotes. If you have any affirmations that you're using, you want to post those on your wall, on your sacred space. You want the space to be cozy. So if it's cold, you need to have a blanket to put over yourself while you meditate. Or if you do yoga, you need a blanket and something to make you cozy while you're in Shavasana. Mindfulness is a lot easier to achieve when your body's comfortable. If your body is in pain, if you're too cold, if you're too hot, if you have the sun shining in your face, then put a window covering. You need to make your physical body comfortable. And really anything else that you would like to do to make your space warm and cozy. So your action step, your homework for today is to either renew the space that you have or create one if you must, if you don't have one. And then I want you to, if you're comfortable, take a picture of it and put it on the comments thread in the units tab. So in the units tab right now, as soon as I log off, I'm going to go put in a little summary of what we discussed and an action step in your homework. And then on the action thread, you're going to put in a picture of your little sacred space. Or if you don't want to post a picture and you're not comfortable and you're a little shy, that's all good. Just say, I did my homework. I created sacred space. I'm ready for tomorrow. Because it's on that space that we are going to start our practice tomorrow when we begin to talk about the mind and I give you your first homework. You want to have that space set up so that you don't have to think about it. And then I also want you to tell us what time you intend to practice. So I created sacred space and my sacred time is this. And I want you to, on the action steps in the units tab, tell us exactly what is the time that you are planning to practice at. Is it 7 a.m.? Is it 7 p.m.? And you don't have to tell us exactly how long you're going to practice for. I'm going to ask you for that on day 4, I think. We're going to make a little bit of a commitment depending on the level that you are at and how long you've been practicing. For now, I just want to know what time of the day you plan to practice, because tomorrow's homework is only going to be 7 minutes. And if you have another practice that you're already doing that's already well established, then you can do it instead of or in addition to what I'm going to give you, but your sacred space should still apply. You also, it just came to me, if you like to write, if journaling works for you, one of the most wonderful things to do when you practice is to write down your experience each day. So today I meditated and my mind wouldn't shut up. Today I meditated and my mind was quiet. Today I meditated and I felt this emotion. Today I meditated and I felt that emotion. And just the act of writing down your experience will be very helpful for the mind to see its progress. And you could even use that as your calendar if you want to keep a record of it that way. And that's not for everyone, but I do find it helpful. And I bring it up because if one of the things that you want to have on your sacred space is a little notebook, a little journal that you keep there so that you can write your experience or even do a little journaling of your thoughts and experiences for the day, then that should also kind of live in your sacred space if possible. Sometimes the journals have private stuff, in which case that doesn't have to live in your sacred space. You can keep that wherever you need to keep it. Okay, let's see. That's what I have for today. I want to keep this short to about 45 minutes at the most. So before I close though, let me see if there's any questions in here. So I always use essential oils in diffuser, yes. And then, good. A closet works. Honestly, closets make very cozy spaces for sacred space. They really do, because sometimes your house is just so, busy and noisy that that's just what you need to do. Let's see. Request me to do mindful meditation 20 minutes per day. I'm struggling, which is why I'm seeking advice from you. How can I create the most out of that 20 minutes? Yes. 20 minutes is tough to start with. I'm sorry, but it's a lot to ask. At the beginning, you can get there in 30 days very easily, but for the reasons that I explain, I do think that 7, 14, and 20 is the most. If you wanna, do with what the doctor tells you, sometimes if people have to do 20 minutes, I would say soothing, peaceful music sometimes helps. And hopefully the doctor won't have a problem with that. I don't think he would. I don't know what practice specifically he has given you, but a lot of the times the reason that and we're going to get into this tomorrow and Wednesday, why is it so darn freaking difficult to sit still for 20 minutes? There's a reason. It's not for no reason. I understand how you feel. I used to feel the same way. And as we go through this challenge, once you understand the root cause of why it's so difficult, you'll be able to deal with it when it comes up. But for now, if you want to sit for 20 minutes and that's what the doctor prescribed, I want you to follow his guidance because I'm sure he's got a reason for it. And I would say try some peaceful music. I'll post it on the Facebook group. Let me make a note because I don't want to lie and then say I'm going to do something that then I don't do. Pose, music, suggestions. A lot of us have, when we begin, have a really hard time just sitting in silence. The mind just runs and runs and runs. And so just giving the mind something to anchor itself to, it's not ideal. It has its own set of issues, and it can become a crutch. But at the beginning, it's kind of like expecting a kid to ride a bike without training wheels, right? So if we need training wheels to get started, we use them because that's just wise. Otherwise, we're not getting anywhere. Okay, so I think this is it for now. Remember, set up your intention on the units tab. Find yourself an accountability buddy, and whenever you do your homework, tag your accountability partner. Don't forget to sign up for the Saturday workshop if you're interested in that live workshop. And if you watch the replay, hit hashtag replay below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Namaste. Bye, everybody.